If you can believe it, the last time I covered the Subnautica 2 lawsuit was 7 months ago. A lot has happened since then, and with the game now entering early access on May 14th, I figured it was time to catch up on everything that's happened since we last talked about it. For a very quick recap on what's been going on with Subnautica 2, here's a quote from my previous video on the subject. Krafton had purchased the studio back in 2021 to the tune of almost $500 million, promising a $250 million bonus that would go to the leadership team, and then shared with the rest of the development team should Unknown Worlds reach certain ambitious revenue targets before June 2026. In July, Krafton fired Charlie Cleveland, Max McGuire, and Ted Gill, citing allegations that they had completely abandoned the development of Subnautica 2 in pursuit of their own personal projects, which had led to development being behind schedule and not ready for an early access release in 2025. As Discovery started, though, Krafton quickly began to change the story of why the founders were fired, which included allegations of stealing documents and materials related to Unknown Worlds in Subnautica 2. This apparently justified their termination after the fact, even though that's not what Krafton was originally making the argument for. Throughout the discovery process, it became known that the CEO of Krafton, Chang-Han Kim, consulted with ChatGPT in an attempt to find a way out of having to pay the $250 million bonus to the Unknown Worlds founders. This was after getting advice from Krafton's own lawyers about it being a risky move in the first place, likely to result in a lawsuit and harm the company's reputation in the process. According to documents from the case, Kim decided to go against his lawyer's advice and proceed with consulting ChatGPT for an answer, and, well, you've seen now how things have played out. Reading through the court document, it's truly bizarre just how much stock a CEO of a major company put into an AI chatbot, but that's the world we currently live in, I guess. At ChatGPT's suggestion, Kim formed an internal task force dubbed Project X. The task force mandate was to either negotiate a deal on the earnout or execute a takeover of Unknown Worlds. They looked to buy time, court records said. Kim sought ChatGPT's counsel on how to proceed if Krafton failed to reach a deal with Unknown Worlds on the earnout. The AI chatbot prepared a response strategy to a no-deal scenario. According to Kotaku and the court records, Kim was worried that Krafton overpaid for the studio and would be labeled a pushover, following projections about what Subnautica 2 was likely to earn at release. This prompted Krafton to implement a strategy of delaying the release of the game and buying themselves time to try to take over the studio completely. Krafton's models predicted that a successful August 2025 early access launch of Subnautica 2, with over 1.67 million copies sold by Q4 2025, would generate significant revenue and trigger the earnout. A financial planning base case scenario indicated a $191.8 million total earnout payment, and a best case scenario indicated a $242.2 million payment. These figures immediately captured the attention of CEO Kim. Kim, who had personally led the acquisition of Unknown Worlds, felt that Krafton had overpaid. He feared that making an earnout payment would earn him a reputation as a pushover. Fast forward to March 16, 2026, and Vice Chancellor Lori Will of the Delaware Chancery Court made the ruling in favor of the Unknown Worlds founders and their legal representation, Fortis Advisors. From the ruling, Fortis proved its claims after an expedited trial. Krafton's newly manufactured justifications for the terminations are pretextual. Cleveland and McGuire had taken on limited roles, but that was long known to and accepted by Krafton. As for the data downloads, the former employees were acting to protect the studio's work product and Krafton's takeover attempt. They kept the data confidential and promptly returned it. The judge also ruled that Gill be returned to his role as CEO of Unknown Worlds and with full operational authority over the studio, and may proceed with the early access release of Subnautica 2 when he deems it appropriate. Cleveland and McGuire were not reinstated with this decision, however. In addition, the time to earn the $250 million payout, which was due to expire in June of 2026, has been extended to September 15, 2026, and includes all the original founders of the studio as agreed to by the initial contract between Unknown Worlds and Krafton. Krafton predictably disagreed with the ruling, and there's still litigation to go through post-release of Subnautica 2 regarding damages accrued by the firing of the executives and whether this had any effect on the game. The link to the full decision will be in the description. It's worth a read just to see how scummy this whole thing was, but Krafton, according to the ruling, essentially fabricated this whole scenario in an attempt to take over the company and avoid paying out the contracted bonuses. This included posting messaging to the Unknown Worlds website without the studio's knowledge on June 12th, locking the team out of its publishing capabilities on Steam, and ignoring requests for communication. However, the messiness didn't stop there. On March 17th, one day after the ruling, IGN suddenly had an exclusive story that Subnautica 2 would be releasing in early access in May. According to GameFile, Forza's advisors sent a letter to the judge stating that Krafton had no right to announce that after the judge's ruling, and indicated that Krafton had leaked a memo intentionally to confirm the release window. Gil had not even had a chance to review the game in its current state when the announcement was made, and if you recall from the ruling, he had been given complete control over when and how to announce when the game was going to be released. Things seem to have worked out, considering we're just days away from the early access release on May 14th, but according to Gil's lawyers, he didn't have much of a choice. While Gil is supremely confident in the skill and dedication of Unknown Worlds' development team, they have been working for months at the direction of management that, as the court recognized, had no prior experience with the Subnautica franchise or early access. Moreover, Gil must deal with publishing agreements, launch advertising planning, and other back-end issues. He now needs to do so with the axe of fan disappointment hanging over his head if he changes the launch timing. As an aside, from personal experience, it's kind of funny how all these corporate guys seem to act the same way. The lack of any honest communication and back-channeling to other people within the company about their plans is how I knew my time was coming to an end at The Escapist as well. They're not very good at hiding their intentions when they're preparing to fuck you over, and always have a laughable idea of how much control they have over how things are going to go. The question I have now is, what is the ongoing relationship between Unknown Worlds and Krafton? The Steam page for Subnautica 2 was updated a few weeks ago to indicate that Unknown Worlds is now self-publishing the game, and in the early access release date announcement trailer, I noticed that Krafton is no longer listed like it was in previous trailers for the game. No official announcement has been made yet, but considering how this all played out, I highly doubt there will be a continuing working relationship between the studio and the publisher once the contract payout terms are met post-release. Krafton still owns the studio at the time of this video, that much is known. Most likely, those details will be kept quiet for the time being so that Unknown Worlds can keep the attention on the game and its upcoming early access release. I imagine when the second round of litigation happens, we'll have a better understanding of what their working relationship with Krafton will look like going forward. I'm also very interested to see how Krafton moves forward with its own leadership team. Considering how this has all played out in the public eye with the CEO consulting ChatGPT in such an embarrassing way, I can't imagine that other studios working under Krafton's leadership are going to view Kim as trustworthy in the future. I know I wouldn't. The whole situation has put fans of the game in a weird position of wanting to support Unknown Worlds, but not Krafton, and I'm sure that's something that's also going to be looked at before this whole case is said and done.